All right, we are live. Welcome, ladies and gents, to the Tangents Podcast, our very special weekly segment called Panels on Pages, where we talk comic books and we talk today with the creator of Acts of Contrition, Michael Heitkemper. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Nice to be here.
Uh, I have been a follower of Insane Comics for a long time. Insane Comics, for those who don't know, for those listening and watching in the future, is a Chicago area comic book publisher. They're out of Rockford, Illinois, and they have been around for quite a few years. I've been seeing them at shows, and my big thing is pretty much the same year that I found them, I stopped collecting floppies. So it was very much a matter of like everything they had was floppies. They had a bunch of different titles, and I thought it was crazy because there's all these different, there's, just everything from superheroes to, weird off the beaten path kind of books. And I was really, really interested. And I was like, I really want to go there. I want to get some stuff, but like, I stopped collecting floppies. Like I don't have the space for them. So I'm only getting stuff that I can shelf, which are trades and graphic novels. So last couple years, they've had some for me. And this year I was at C2E2 and picked up Acts of Contrition. And this is a, if I'm not mistaken, this was just a one and done kind of all in one graphic novel, right? This wasn't put out as singles.
No, this wasn't put out as singles. We decided to just release it as a graphic novel, get you a whole story put into it because it just felt like that epic of a story for us. And we are going to keep going with the story. There'll be a volume 2 eventually, but you can buy this book and get a complete story in it, beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, and it's great. It's one of those things that I like that aspect of it because there are certain portions where you've got chapter breaks and they're only like 3 pages, so it gives you that freedom to really kind of shape the story the way you want it. It is a bit of a different artistic take. Initially, I flipped the pages. I actually thought I had like a bad print because one of the first pages has this like weird. One of the characters like getting beaten up or something, and I forget which page it was, but it was just like really kind of, I saw black and white, but then I saw like these just like splashes of color in some of the onomatopoeia stuff, and like I was like, oh, this is really cool, like a really interesting take. So I like different art. Like I've been a fan of like superhero comics for my whole life basically, and I've in the last like 3-4 years I've been going really kind of into the indie space, and the variety is huge.
Oh yeah,
like one of the
there's a lot of things out there.
yeah, one of the big things I always criticize DC specifically about is from about the like mid 90s to about the mid 2000s you could pick up any DC book and they all pretty much look the same, aside from like a one or two artists here and there that were just like really, really stand out. Everything looked pretty much the same. And that's why I like indie books. Like, there is almost no chance that you pick up 2 indie books and they look the same. And that's why I love that space.
Pretty true. And one thing, with Insane Comics, they let us, do whatever we want with our books. We're all creator owns. The publisher, they don't really tell us what we need to put in it or how it needs to look. It's got to look good, of course. But, we get to have 100% creative control over our work, and I appreciate the compliments on the artwork of the book. AJ Fulcher, he did all the artwork, and one of the things about doing it in black and white, getting that gritty look, that's exactly what we were kind of shooting for. And as we were going along with it, I don't remember if it was his idea or mine to just kind of toss in a little bit of color just to make it pop here and there, that it really does set the pages off a whole lot.
For sure. And I think it really does call to that kind of genre. Like it's the mafia style. So you get those the dark shadows, and like you get the stuff that if you've seen Goodfellas, if you've seen Godfather, those shadowy moments, those like really dark scenes. You get that out of it, and it's a lot easier than. And I don't say a lot easier, but it's definitely a lot more emotional. You get a lot more deeper into what's going on.
Because it's a darker story, it's darker than most anything else I've written. And the art, it really spoke to me. I actually wrote this as a novel at one time.
Okay.
And, I rewrote it 3 or 4 times, and I just couldn't get happy with it, you know. And AJ, he works with me on the Freedom Fighter comic book series, and you know, we were just talking one day about it, and he was like, "Well, hey, how about a graphic novel?" And I said, "Well, let me throw a couple pages of script together." So I converted it, I think we just did 10 pages at first, and he turned it around almost instantly and sent it back to me, and it's just, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm throwing away this 100,000 word draft, and you know, we're gonna do a graphic novel because it just looks cool as hell. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out, and I think we've really got something here.
Yeah, it's an outstanding read. So let's talk about the story a little bit. I want to talk about the cover, because I'll be honest, by the time I was done, I didn't think the cover, I still, to this day, don't think the cover makes any sense. So sometimes angels deserve to die, and obviously that's a huge catch. You're like, all right, like, traditionally, angels are good guys. Why would they need to die? I love that, you know, he's literally got the cement shoes on. Really appreciate that on the cover. But, like, it kind of puts you in the mindset of what's going on, right? Cement shoes, he's tied up to a chair, he's gagged. Like, all right, if this is supposed to be an angel, like, he's about to go out mafia style, like, what's happening? So it's definitely super catchy on the cover, and I think that's outstanding. What brought this story out? Like, how did this story come about originally?
Oh man, it's hard to say, really. I mean, the idea of, just like of being helpful, or, you know, you see people in hard times and struggles and stuff, and just kind of get this little idea that, you know, what if somebody, you know, told them that there was some kind of power or something, godly power or something, that's going to just be watching over you, even if it's a stranger that walks up to you and says that, you know, how could that affect their life? And then the whole idea kind of took a little bit of a darker turn and said, okay, what if that angel, you know, he's got some baggage too. He's not all that perfect, and he's probably not in that position, or he shouldn't be in the position that he is to be given advice. And it's really complicated the way that I come up with the story, to be honest. It turned out the way that I wanted, though. Does that make sense?
For sure. Oh, for sure. I've been writing for many, many years, and I completely understand. It's stuff that you come up with the weirdest things. I call them sketches, because I also draw, so like I call everything sketches, where it's just like I get an idea of a scene. I don't know what it's part of. I don't know what story it's going to be in. I get a scene. This is what happens in it. I'll jot it down. Right. Won't even touch it for years until it fits into something. So I completely understand. Like, sometimes you just gotta let it grow.
It kind of grew on its own, you know. In the original novel that I was talking about, the angel, he was actually the main character. And as I got writing the story to be the graphic novel, we kind of switched it over, and we added Daryl Malone, who is actually the main character in the book, who's a law enforcement that's dying. And you know, the reason we did that is because it was a 100,000 word novel, and it all wouldn't fit into 160 pages of graphic novel. So we chopped a whole bunch of parts out, and we decided we'll do the angel part, you know, in the next book, and Daryl in this book. But Daryl turned out to be a much more complicated character than what we thought he would.
For sure. For sure. I mean, even reading it, like, at the beginning, you're kind of like, all right, this guy's one note kind of, you know, mafia enforcer guy. Oh yeah. But then, like, he grows.
He's a take no shit type of dude, you know. He kills people for no reason, and, you know, anybody that he thinks might cross him. And as you get going, you find out that he's got a drive, you know, for a certain reason, and don't really want to say what that is without them reading the book, but
for sure.
You know, he's doing all of these things for a reason. And you know, the angel, of course, he has his own motives, and they're not all that great either. So whenever they come together and they start working together, even if they don't like it, it leads to a somewhat happy ending, I guess.
Definitely. Now, as far as the I mean, like, here's the thing. This is, I try to stay away from spoiler territory, especially if it's a book like this where 99% of the experience is the experience itself. It's not, like, the ending isn't what does it. It's the whole thing. It's the journey, which I think really speaks to the quality of the story told. Um, how did you get? I'm trying to phrase it in a way that it doesn't really give away anything. that's difficult. It's difficult, especially when it's like a continuous story. It's an interwoven story like this, so it's difficult to say stuff without saying everything. So the reason this is called Tangents, because random things come up. That's why we call it the Tangents Podcast. I was just watching a Jimmy Kimmel interview, and they were talking to some of the cast of Infinity War. And it was one of those things like they're talking to them like okay, so this is for people who haven't seen the movie, and it's like, does everyone make it out? And they're all kind of looking at each other. I'm like, yeah, you can't say anything. I can't say we do. Like,
this is the greatest interview ever.
Right.
Can we talk about spoilers to that movie yet?
Right, exactly. That's which, by the way, I loved it. It was an outstanding film.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Now you said that is it Daryl, right? Daryl, right?
Yes, Daryl Malone.
I was for some reason I thought it was different. Was Daryl always like in the original book story? Was he always dying? Was he always like he was terminal with cancer?
Yes. Yeah, he was always. He had a deadline. It kind of was the whole reason that he really accepted the angel's help. He kind of felt like this is my second chance to kind of make some of the wrongs that he's done right, even though he probably isn't, but it gave him that extra push to say, hey, I've only got a little bit of time, I better do what they say. Otherwise he might have just tried to shoot the angel.
For sure, yeah. That'll get, yeah, that's one of those things, like when you have a character like that, it's very interesting to see how they're going to take things. So I like that. I did like that there were kind of at the beginning though, when the first angel comes in, he's like, hey, you want to kind of like lay it all on the line, you're done here. Mm-hmm. If you want to just lay it all on the line, who knows what, I'm not saying it's going to do anything, but it might help you. So then when our angel comes in, the I don't call him the main angel, but the main angel.
His name is Stephen. I think we only dropped his name like once or twice in the book, but his name is Stephen. So.
Stephen, okay. So yeah, when Stephen comes in, he's more likely to believe. It's not. And I like that there's like this myth in the background, like throughout this mafia stuff, like, oh, this one enforcer said some stuff, like I heard about this. And I love that. There's just, even in essentially a short story, there is so much mythos already built in around this character. And my whole question the entire time has been very much, why is it so important for him to find out, who killed his charge? And the entire time I'm like, what? Like sometimes people die, like whatever. You didn't save this one. You move on and whatever. But he's just so incredibly driven, and I'm interested. You said that the angel stuff's going to be in the next book, which I think it's done very well. In that I'm in. I'm already in for the next one. You let me know when it's coming out.
It'll be a little bit yet. We're still in the writing process, getting it drafted, but. Yeah, the angel, he's very complicated, and his drive to keep on going and try to figure out who killed his client or whatever, Martin.
Right.
He's at first it's like, oh, you're thinking maybe he has to do this or else he's going to be punished by the angel committee or something like this, or something along those lines. Or some way he's going to be punished because he let somebody die, but of course, at the end, you get a little more clarity of why exactly he was chasing after this. And you get a little more clarity, I guess, on what he really is and what he really isn't,
For sure.
But the next book will definitely explain everything much more detailed. Because the angel, he has a pretty checkered past himself.
And that I'm like I said, I'm already in for that one. I'm sold on that. I love the dialogue. I think the book is really done, like I said, very, very well across the board. The art really speaks to me on many levels. There are little details that are taken care of with. I don't like static panel design, so I love, like, for instance, I don't know if you're watching right now, but I'm looking at the interrogation sequence where the boss is interrogating Stephen, and I love that there's different. You've got certain panels are kind of, I don't want to say oval, but you know they're not square. They're angled, which adds to the drama. But then I love the corner panels where you've got the boss just blending into the black background.
Yeah,
I love that. Like it really, it's just like, again, it draws into the darkness of it and
it sets the mood.
Absolutely, that's precisely the term. It's really incredibly well done. I love a lot. There's a lot of texture work. That's another big thing for me in this book. There's a lot of texture work. I mean, like, this is just silhouettes and textures of rain, and it's fantastic. I love this shot.
I appreciate that, and all that goes to AJ Fulcher, man. He's an amazing artist. He's a good friend. Me and him have gotten really close over the past, I guess 8 or 9 years. We've been working together just on different projects, trying things out, and gosh, I really don't remember exactly how we ran into each other. Somewhere on the internet, and just decided, hey, let's start working on comics together. And, we both just decided we were committed to it, and here now we've got 2 different titles out, going pretty strong, and it feels great.
So is he the artist also? You said he was the artist on
Freedom Fighter.
Freedom Fighter.
Yeah.
Superhero. Super straightforward superhero, or is there a dark undertone? Because now I'm expecting it. You know.
No, it's not really. It's not dark like this. This is Freedom Fighter. Your kids could read it. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's kind of like 007 crosses Inspector Gadget, and
okay.
It's just a fun, all ages superhero story. You know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
As far as again, it's like dancing on bed of nails, trying to avoid stuff. The like, right? It's I mean, it's like giving away the end of Goodfellas. Like, you got to see the whole thing to get it. You got to see the whole thing to get it.
One of my favorite things about writing, and whenever I'm writing something, I'm trying to think of some kind of a twist to put at the end of the story that just makes you go, oh, didn't see that coming, And whenever I feel like, whenever I hear you saying stuff like that, it makes me go, okay, I think I did it, that there is a surprise ending, and I pulled it off, so it makes me feel kind of good.
Excellent. I mean, it's definitely executed brilliantly. Sorry, I'm just trying to promo the show real quick while we're live. See if we can get some people in, seeing seeing the whole thing right now. It's interesting for me to see independent books on this scale. Honestly, I've been working with a few artists. I don't know if you've heard of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge. Started by Kevin Cross, who makes the Monkey Mod and Friends show. We just put out a anthology, so that was super cool to work with. It was my first published work. I did the writing and the art, and I think the art is super subpar compared to what the story is. But it's it was a great experience, and it was one of those things that, like, I took that, and I take books like this where you've got production quality, you've got a very much a complete story. That's been something that's been 100% key for me. A few years back, there was a book called Treadwater. I'm honestly, I was gonna say I don't want to name names, but I really do. There's a book called Treadwater. I don't know if you watch The Walking Dead. The guy who played Tyrese, I forget.
No, I actually don't watch it.
Oh, okay.
I'm the only person on earth that doesn't.
I don't want to say I've stopped, but I'm not caught up. But anyway, one of the main characters, he was on the show, I want to say 2-3 seasons maybe. His character died off, and he was going into other stuff, and he backed this independent comic book series. But my beef with the whole thing is that they made it out to be this huge thing. They were talking about a video game. They had like a teaser trailer for a show. Like, they were trying to go all out right out of the gate, and no one knew them. Mm-hmm. And they were selling a book. And I was like, yo, like, I'm hyped. The hype machine is here. I'm in. I'll buy the book. We pre-ordered the book. It gets here. I'm reading it. It's the first 3 issues. It doesn't complete a story, and I'm just left up in the air. Like, when's the next one come? Like, what did I just pay for? So having a book that's got the production quality, it's not a floppy printed off of somebody's computer and hand folded at home. It's you've got the quality. This could be at any graphic novel shop, any comic book shop. This is the real deal. This is not this is not some super ultra small press kind of thing. It's a full graphic novel, a complete story, and I think that's 100% key. You can say, hey, you like Goodfellas? Boom. Like, done.
It fits. Yeah, this book's right for you.
Like, that's it. Here's the whole story. Do I need to read anything else? Nope. You don't need to do anything else. Here's the book. Read the whole thing. You're done.
Yep.
And like I said, a lot of times you get a lot of flash and you don't get a lot of story, or you get a lot of story but the production quality's super low. It's low, low print, hand cut, this kind of stuff, and it's just the experience is different.
Yeah, when we put it together for a graphic novel, whenever it started, page, we had 160 pages. I was thinking, man, who's going to buy this big book? I was wondering, is it even going to sell that well? So far, I think we're doing pretty good. We've taken it to several cons, and I usually sell quite a few of them, more than what I expect every time. And I feel like that's great. Oftentimes we wondered if we should have sold it as floppies just to give people, so they won't have to put out a little as much cash for it, just to get the first part of the story and maybe come back and get the second one. But that seems too complicated.
For sure.
Yeah, graphic novels and trades, they're like my favorite too, because like you said, I can go through a floppy in like 3 minutes, sometimes.
Right.
Depending on the art.
And especially if it's an indie book, like you go through it 3, 5, maybe let's say it's 10 minutes, and in 10 minutes you're done, and it's one guy or a couple guys working on it. And when's the next book coming out? Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows if it's coming out? Yeah, who knows if it's coming out?
Exactly.
I was actually just I had I don't know if you've been on the convention scene. I'm sure you've seen Unshaven Comics, their local Chicago company. Same kind of thing. Like I've been chit chatting them for years, and they're always like, "Can I tell you about?" That was their whole thing at the shows is, "Can I tell you about my comic?" And I walk up and I was like, "Do you have a trade?" "No, I'll see you next year." That was all. That was the entirety of our conversation every time. But it was one of those things. Like I remember them having the first issue, and then it was like a couple years, and then the second issue, and like I'm a completionist. So for me, I shotgunned the first 3 seasons of Dexter, and then watched the 4th one live, and it killed me because I just wanted to watch the next episode because I just need the whole thing. I need it now.
Yeah, Netflix and Prime and all those things, man, they've ruined us too. Because you can't watch a normal television show on a syndicated television show live anymore because commercials for one, and then wait till next week to see the next part or next season or next mid-season finale. It's so frustrating.
There's too many breaks now. I feel there's definitely too many breaks. I remember from September until March or June or whatever it was. That was the season. If you finished, the season finished in March, April, you didn't get anything new until September. You could jump on it was cartoons, it was everything. So now that there's so many breaks, I lose track. I lose track of shows. I lose track of what I'm watching. I'm just catching up one of my shows right now. I'm catching up on Lucifer. Great series, by the way, based on a comic book.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. Haven't started watching it yet.
It's really outstanding as far as again storytelling and universe building. It's great.
My wife and we've actually trying to get caught up on all the Marvel Netflix series. Right now we're on Jessica Jones. I think we're just about done with the first season, and it's all right. It's I might be the only one that don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but it's fun.
How far away from the end are you?
I think we only have 1 or 2 more episodes of the first season.
I feel like welcome Natasha to the broadcast. I feel like I feel like the last couple episodes definitely pay off. I don't think it was my favorite. It certainly was my favorite series. But I think it was good.
You know, my wife and I, whenever we start watching a series on something, on like Netflix or something, when we finally agree on a show to start watching,
right?
We always tell each other, okay, we got to give this show at least 3 episodes to get us hooked, because that seems to be how most of those shows are on Netflix. I don't think it was till episode 8 or 9 before I was finally okay.
Oh, okay.
I know what's going on with Jessica Jones.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, yeah, I was about to give up on it.
I mean, that you held out for a while. You held out for a while. Yeah, I did. I'll tell you what. You put your hiking boots on for Iron Fist. That was that was a rough one for me to get through, and I'm a fan. But I think that's the problem, is I'm a fan. Like, I know Danny Rand the character, so very much like did not feel like Danny Rand the character to me. So it was very much hard to accept a lot of the characterization. Story's good, like the action, the fighting is terrible. The action sequencing is so bad. To go from, I don't know if have you seen the first season of Daredevil yet?
Yes, and I was
so incredible, right? So incredible.
Yeah, the choreography and the fight scenes in Daredevil was just...
So to consider that the same studio is making a show, and you're like, and this is a kung fu show. This is awesome. I am psyched.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nope. There is literally a shot, and I can't, it's burned into my mind. There's a shot, they're fighting, it's like there's like a fence or a cage or something next to him, and he's fighting the one guy, and the other guy literally waits with this crowbar, like... visibly pauses, and I was like, you couldn't cut that out? There's 36 other cuts in this fight scene. You couldn't cut that out.
Yeah, I've heard that one's probably, we only really have to watch 2 episodes of Iron Fist to know what's going on in like the Defenders or something. But I'm
a completionist, so I'd still say watch the whole thing.
Same way.
But it's very much.
I held out so long with Jessica Jones. It was like, I feel like we've got to see this through, you know.
You do, and you know what? Honestly, like I said, I think Jessica Jones pays off. I think it was a good show. I think it was a really good show for like a first female superhero, live action, like a lot going on. I wish they would kind of delve. I haven't seen the second season yet, but I wish they would delve a little more into her abilities and what she can do, because she is. I don't want to. She's a higher class hero than they paint her. On the show, they paint her pretty bottom level.
I thought that in the comics she flies, though, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's why that the scene where she, in that yellow dress or whatever, she jumps off that building. That's why that was so momentous. I mean, especially at least for me, I was like, oh yeah, because I was like, she's kind of she's like leaning into her powers a little more, versus just fighting people.
Well. It's getting interesting now. So a couple more episodes, and then we can move on to the next series.
Right, for sure. Now, as far as you said, this is going to take a couple years to bring it back around. You said the next one's going to take a little while. You're still writing the script, which is, I understand, can be difficult. Like I said, this was my first. The anthology was my first published work, but the year before that, I finished my first script for the first arc of the comic we want to make, and it took 8 years to write. I'm gonna be honest. Like I planned it out to be this standard 22 pages per issue kind of floppies. Like I originally planned it as printing comics, and then I wrote the first issue. I was on page 3, and I had planned this 3-page exposition. And I was done, and I was like, I have 2 more pages of exposition that I planned for. What the hell am I going to do with these 2 pages? And I was like, can I stretch this out? I'm reading it, and I'm like, no, I'm done. I've explained everything I need to explain here. Yeah. And I was like, and then it took me like 3 days, but I figured out, I'm like, this is the internet. It doesn't matter how long it is. So it turned into this really tight, concise 10-page issue. I got 5 10-page issues, a 15-page 6th issue finale. And it's tight, and it's like quick, and I love the read. So it was one of those things, like the format, I think, was a huge effect, because not having to consider if it's going to be single issues, because I'm like, I can just put out a graphic novel. That's going to be 65 pages. You throw in 15, 20 pages of bonus material. I'm going to have some prose stories that I'll throw in there. I'm like, this it could come out as a really good graphic novel. So
you get so much more with a graphic novel, like you're saying too. You get bonus material in the back. If you wanted to put prose material in there, yeah, that's an awesome idea too. But as far as the timeline for the second installment of Acts of Contrition, it may be sooner than what we think.
Okay.
Like I said, the story is basically written. It just needs to be put into script form, so that way AJ can draw it and go from that. So it just comes down to a matter of me doing the work on top of the million other things I need to get done myself. So
that is the life of the creator. You wake up, you got to do the stuff for the life, the day-to-day stuff, but then you also got to do the grind, you got to do the work. Now to jump back in time a little bit, you said Freedom Fighters was the first thing you were working on. Was that the first comic you ever worked on?
No, there's another comic book out there that is yet to be published, and it's kind of just sitting in limbo. I also did a webcomic series with a couple guys called Distractions. I think it's still on drunkduck.com, if that website's still out there.
Drunk Duck?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard of that for some reason.
Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of web comics, and a lot of people put things
I think actually a buddy of mine has his webcomic on there.
Yeah, and they used to have a lot of great stuff on there, but a couple years ago the site crashed and a lot of people's comics disappeared. I don't know what happened, but we could no longer upload pages to it, so that story's kind of sitting, kind of waiting, and our artist, he got kind of tired of working on it, so he took a break, and looks like it's going to be an indefinite break. So
bummer.
Yeah, but those are all just different experiences that brought me to here, and maybe someday I'll get back to them and complete them all. But
for sure.
As it is, I'm going to just keep going forward, and because I think a lot of the more stuff I have in my head, it's going to be greater what I've done in the past.
Definitely. Welcome, Miff, to the broadcast. We're talking with Michael Heitkemper, the creator of Acts of Contrition. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the messages down below. Now, you said this was going to be planned as a novel. The last series you were working on is superhero. But I took a quick peek on the website. Distractions looks to be maybe a slice of life kind of thing.
No, Distractions is kind of a twisted story about a guy that he's having a mental breakdown. He works in a nuclear power facility, and he's starting to think that the people there are either aliens, or they're trying to control his life, or like some kind of crazy conspiracies going on, and he's trying to figure it out, get his family away. And as it's going along, everybody seems to be in on whatever is going on, and he's the lone guy in there. It's just a very paranoid comic, and that one, I guess, thinking about it now, I think I need to go back and finish it because it has a neat little twist that we had planned for the end, and it just never got completed.
I was gonna say, looking at it, it looks like it's where the webcomic got to about 30 pages. Yeah, you could put out a little prestige format, all in one story.
Yeah, and I just have to get in touch with all the people that used to work on it with me and see if anybody's interested in getting back into it. If not, find some more people, some more artists, I guess.
That's absolutely the biggest challenge. I've been trying to find an artist for about 5 months now, and there's always a reason why someone can't do it. So it's been a very interesting road.
Yeah, I've dealt with so many different artists in the past, and I'm not knocking any of them because they are all thousands times more talented than I am, whenever it comes to artwork and stuff. But, there's so many out there that, of course, drawing is hard. It is hard, and they deserve to make a living doing what they do. But sometimes, if you're trying to just pitch something to a publisher, you're trying to keep your costs down, and paying an artist isn't always the best way to go, for just a pitch. But if you have something for sure, it's a little different. But yeah, some of them do flake off there for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's now with did I already forget the name of it? What's the superhero comic? Wow.
Freedom Fighter.
Freedom Fighter. Wow, that's gotta get me some herbs. Gotta get some herbs to help with the. That was a deep one. When you got to Insane Comics, did you already know? And I forgot his first name. I've got the last name obviously right here on the book. But what was the artist's name?
AJ Fulcher.
AJ Fulcher. Did you already know him beforehand, or was that something where you paired up with him through Insane Comics?
Oh no, me and AJ, we knew each other well before that. We'd been working on Freedom Fighter for a long time, just kind of perfecting this idea of creating a comic book, you know. And honestly, Freedom Fighter kind of started out as just let's try it. It's a practice book, and you know, we thought, okay, let's just make a superhero. He's got to have a cape. He's gonna have a mask, all this stuff, and what's a superpower? And it's like, oh, how about we make him like a super soldier type of thing? Oh, here's an idea. He's controlled by the government. He's the only superhero that's controlled and operated by the government, you know, and that's not a great idea, you know, to have government in control of a superhero.
Right.
It made for some good stories, you know, lots of conspiracy type things, like whether the Freedom Fighter knows if he's doing the right thing or if he's doing something for some corrupt bureaucrat, you know. He's just following orders and digging up and figuring out that a lot of the people that he works for aren't exactly his friends. And we touch on all kinds of stuff in the book. It's a lot of fun, and it's turning out 100 times better than what we thought it would when we first started it, really. But yeah, me and AJ, we've known each other forever, and we actually, Freedom Fighter was published by another publisher before Insane.
Oh, okay.
And just like a couple weeks before issue 2 of Freedom Fighter, before it came out with the first publisher, the publisher actually called me and said, hey, sorry, we're dropping you along with all these other books because
oh, wow,
we feel like we need to work on our own books, and so we don't have time for anybody else. And it's like, really? Did this just happen?
Wow, that's
You know?
that's
It
that's
really
not good.
sucked.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for that to happen, you know, because at that point we were on cloud 9. It was like, hey, we got this little superhero book we didn't think would hardly go anywhere, and he has a publisher, and then all of a sudden, boom, he no longer has anything. And you know, not only that, you know, if we tried to pitch it to another publisher, we got to include the fact that, hey, another publisher had us, and
right,
you know, they kind of dropped us. There's a whole story involved, you know.
Right, yeah. There's a whole lot of background. There's a whole lot of background, and different people are going to take that in different ways. So that's
luckily James Munch at Insane Comics. He didn't shy away from it at all. I just sent him a letter. You know, I found him on the internet and said, hey,
oh wow,
we got this. We got the books ready to be printed, and you know, take a look. And he liked what he saw, sent us a contract. I don't think Freedom Fighter sat without a publisher for more than 2 months. You know.
Hey,
and,
that's the way to. That's the best one. Yeah. That is the best case scenario right there.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good book. It really is. It's got some great artwork. It's got some fun stories. You know, everybody has picked it up. We've got a lot of praise on social media about the book and some good reviews. So we're actually going to be releasing a trade paperback. So for you, trade paperback
for sure.
of the first 4 issues in July. I think it might be July 7th. But there'll be a trade paperback of the first 4 issues, and then in the following months, I think issue 7 will finally come out. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is that, you know, going back to what I was saying earlier, is that trade paperback going to be a complete story arc?
Yes. The first 4 issues is the first story, and
excellent.
You know, we could have stopped at issue 4, and you know, Freedom Fighter would have been a good beginning, middle, end story. That's it. But he has more conspiracies to tackle, so he'll be around for at least another 5 issues, or 6 issues rather.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm taking a look at some of the artwork of the covers. That looks very nice. That looks very cool. I love the logo's got a very classic feel to it. I dig it.
Tell me the cartoon. It took me forever to realize what AJ brought that from. it has a very Thundercat type of.
Well, I was gonna say Thundercats and Silverhawks.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to draw that comparison. But if it was intentional, then yeah, it definitely I see it.
I don't know if it was intentional, but you know, I always teach.
It's hard to say that you're not influenced by the things you've experienced in your life. It's
exactly.
It's impossible to say.
It's just whenever I saw the logo for the first time, I thought, hey, that is cool. And then the more I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, what is that from? And it wasn't for a while before somebody finally told me, hey, that was the Thundercats. And I was like, oh, of course it is, you know. But it's still a really cool logo. It's a cool book. I would implore everyone to pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if Acts of Contrition is any evidence to your writing skills and your storytelling skills, I would 100% recommend it. Are both books on your website?
Yeah, you can buy them on my website. You can buy them on the Insane Comics website. And, of course, everything's available digitally through Comixology also. So.
Oh, nice. The full, okay, Comixology as well. Shoosh. Yep. You're everywhere. That's where you got to be. You got to be everywhere these days to get even a little bit.
Yeah, it's really tough, you know. But I think we're kind of spreading it out there as best we can. And digital comics, I'm not much of a digital comic type of guy, but I guess a lot of people are going that way.
You know what? I think a lot of it. Well, I mean, honestly, in most cases, it's not cheaper. To be very honest, the first time I've seen a reduced cost for digital books has been with Insane Comics. When I jumped online and I was like, oh, this trade is only $5. This is awesome. Because most everybody is full price. Yeah. I think taking, you know, let's say, you know, a publisher's got to put out 30,000 is, I know, generous in today's market, but let's say 10,000 copies of a book. 10,000 copies of a book printed, if you cut that cost, shouldn't it be cheaper? It's the same beef I have with digital games. Like, I don't buy disc games for the most part unless I'm going to like GameStop and buying used. So if I'm buying a digital game, what am I paying $60 for exactly?
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm getting a physical disc if I go to the store.
Yep.
Shouldn't there be a discount? That's just me though.
Yeah, that's how I am too. You know, I like to have that physical copy of whatever it is that I'm buying in my hand. Really, the only thing I buy digitally is music, and most of the times I don't really pay for that either.
Here's the thing. For me, I kind of work in reverse, honestly. In a lot of scenarios like with this, I mean, like I said, I've been following Insane for many moons, so that this was not even this. He was like, I think it was James was at the show. He was like, hey, trade. I was like, sold. Like, easy money, done. Did that.
Which day were you at C2E2?
I was there all 3 days. Were you there?
All 3. I was there, yeah.
Oh, I might have bought it from you then.
Yeah.
I might have bought it from you.
I'm starting to think that I did meet with you because I think that you wanted it just because it was a trade. May or may not have been you, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was you.
Probably had a camera with me.
I can't remember. There were a lot of people at the show.
We put out a video of the show every year, which actually is now like 2 weeks behind because, you know, as we were discussing earlier, life gets in the way. But that should be coming out next week, and that's going to be. We talked. I don't know if we talked to you. We did talk to. Is it Apocalypse Girl?
Okay, that was Saturday.
So yeah, we talked with Les on Saturday about that, but we hit the booth all 3 days, so like we were there
on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely there Friday. So yeah, I mean, I might have bought it from you on Friday. But like, this is one of those rare occasions where like I'll buy something that I don't know directly at a show. Most of the time when I get into like indie stuff like this, where it's like, had it been at my LCS, you know, would I have picked it up? I don't know. I can't say there, because there you're looking at one thing on a shelf of 50 things, 100 things. I like doing it at shows better because for me it's like I'm sitting there, I'm having a conversation with you. You can pitch me the book. That's where I prefer to buy mine. But with a lot of the indie stuff that I have, and I've talked about a couple of books already on this podcast that I picked up just randomly. I don't know if, because you're East Coast, right? Or you're just East.
Midwest.
You're in Indiana?
Yeah, I'm in Indiana. Yeah, southern part.
Do you guys have
closer to Louisville, Kentucky?
Okay. Do you guys have half price books?
Yeah, I think we do somewhere.
So I usually go to half price books. I find these like, weird title, weird cover, like stuff that I've never heard of, and it's like $3, $5,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I mean, for $3, even if it's bad, the cover looks cool or whatever. So I've ended up with like the coolest books because I just pick up something random. That's why I love, like, when we do our videos for C2E2 and our indie show, or our smaller shows that we go to. I like to talk to creators who I haven't seen before, creators who I haven't talked to before. I check in with people I know, like Jenny Wood's a big, I consider her a friend. She's I've got all 3 of her books. She's just got picked up by Dark Horse to publish her big collection. But like, I checked in with her. I was like, hey, I know I got to pick up the last book from you. Peace out. That was it. Because like, I've already interviewed her on video. I've already talked to her a bunch of times, said what's up. And then I went, we talked to probably 10, 15 different people at length, like we say, hey, pitch the whole thing. Give me the whole book. What's going on? And what we do is we put them in the video. So we'll do some montage stuff of the show. And then we cut over to people we talk to. So, and every year I'm trying to talk to somebody different. Because, I've talked to, XYZ last year. So, because I think a lot of situations, like, 30,000 or whatever people go to C2E2 over the weekend.
Yeah.
Which is like an incredible amount of people. Like, conceptually is huge. But like, it's still like nothing in compared to the amount of people that read comics and are interested in the culture. So I think having a video like that where it's like, hey, these are the people who were there. If you didn't get to go, here are their website links on the bottom. Boom. So like, if you dig this, if you like this story, if you like this pitch, check it out, kind of thing. That's it's an
awesome thing, man.
I call it indie love. Hashtag indie love. That's we're at that position where at some point we're going to be published. So I'd love to say that maybe some of that goodwill comes back around our way, but I just think there's a lot coming out of the big 3. I know Image isn't part of the big 3, but it kind of is. It kind of is. Image is a powerhouse.
Consider it one of them.
Image is a powerhouse. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, it's just Marvel and DC, but I think Image is in the same rate. Like, even places like Dynamite is like licensed properties a lot of the time. Welcome NBIS64 to the broadcast. I'm talking with Michael Heitkemper, creator of Freedom Fighter and Acts of Contrition. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them down below. I'm gonna switch over and show off some of the artwork from Acts of Contrition right now. I switched to broadcaster right away.
Yeah, I noticed that. Lost complete train of thought.
Yeah, just a complete derailment.
But what you were saying earlier about, if you saw the book in your local comic book store, it probably wouldn't be one of the things you pick up. We've been trying to get the books into stores for so long. It seems like every time I go into a store, there's always another hurdle to go across. Like, okay, is it got a diamond code? No, it doesn't have a diamond code. Okay, does it have, a USB code? ISBN number. And, we finally got those. Acts of Contrition actually came out with them, but Freedom Fighter didn't first.
I see ISBN.
We get them into the stores, and,
Plus, I want to talk about this is only $16.99, guys. This is you said 180 pages.
It's actually 164 pages.
164 pages of story for $16.99. This nothing. This nothing. This nothing. It's 10 cents a page. It's nothing. Let's be real. Let's be real. If this was X-Men, it'd be $25 for this.
Yeah.
Like,
that's something else. Whenever James said he was going to sell for $16.99, I was thinking, man, are we making anything? Because I thought it was going to be a $25 book, to be honest. But he said we could sell it for $16.99, and I think that's great. It makes the audience. It gives us a wider audience. For sure.
And I think a lot of the culture definitely has to be the price of admission, right? You look at certain things like, a few years ago, 4 years ago now, I publicly broke up with Wizard. Like we put out a video. I was so mad. It was $100 to walk in the door for the weekend, and I was just genuinely appalled. I just couldn't understand how you could put that high of a price tag on such a comparatively small show, especially comparing it to something like a C2E2, $100. And I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like, how can you ask $100 and then at the same rate on the creator side? I don't know if you've ever met Angel Medina.
No.
He is he was a writer. He was an artist on Spawn for a number of years, Spider-Man, like industry name, local guy here in Chicago area. He's been a guest of the Chicago Comic-Con since the 80s. Like, he helped build the thing. And that same year, I was talking to him. He's like, I'm probably not gonna be coming back here anymore. I was like, oh, why? What's going on? He said, after 25, 30 years or whatever, it's like, they asked me to pay for my table. And I was like, what?
Oh.
What? Like,
wow.
Oh, an OG? Like, this is the guy. This is one of the first 5 guys, let's say. You ask him, oh, next year we're going to need you to pay for your table. What?
Huh.
And then, like, on top of it, because here's the thing. What had happened was, with the C2E2 and Wizard thing in Chicago, Wizard was supposed to sell to Reed Pop, and C2E2 was going to be the only show.
Oh.
Something somewhere during the process fell apart. The problem was Marvel had already signed with Reed Pop, DC had already signed with Reed Pop, and I think even Image had already signed with Reed Pop. They had Dark Horse left, and I think their contract was expiring too. They ended up with one major publisher and nothing else, and a show to put on in August. Obviously, Marvel wasn't going to sign up because that gives them, I think, logistically, that gives them space because they don't have to drag all the crap from San Diego straight to Chicago, basically, in August. They're like, we can do Chicago in the spring, go to San Diego in the summer, and then we don't have to drag the stuff anywhere else. Yeah. So, like, I think for them, it just made sense not to sign up again. So then they joined forces with this entertainment company, and then it became all about these signatures and these guests and the entertainment guests, wrestlers and actors and all that stuff. And that's cool, but then they kept trying to call it a Comic-Con, and every year they would hide the comics, hide the artists, which I thought was ridiculous. One of the years
they get all covered up by figures, and
they put a legitimate wall in front of Artist Alley.
Yeah.
They took all the signatures. They made a whole like walled in section of like, oh, this is where you go for the signatures, except it was right in front of Artist Alley, so people didn't see Artist Alley. There was a whole half of Artist Alley that no one went to. So yeah, it was terrible. So to keep calling it a Comic-Con and put that $100 price on it, by the time someone gets to Artist Alley, to an independent creator, you're sitting there, if it's $25, like, hey, listen, it's 170, 180 pages, but they're like, yeah, but I only had 200. I paid $100 at the door. I had $30 to eat. I can literally have only so much money to spend here. So like you cut them off at the legs. I think C2E2 is definitely a better spot. Never?
Comic-Con. I don't think so. But
I wouldn't recommend it, honestly.
I'd pay $100 to get in the door.
It's rough. It's rough, honestly. And the only reason I went that year was a friend of ours, a client of ours, technically, is part of he had a table there. He had already bought a table, and I was like, hey, can you get us a discounted ticket or something? And he was able to get us a discounted ticket. We helped him out with the table so he could walk away for a few. But it sucked. I was watching all these, and this was, like I said, this was the year when they blocked off the Artist Alley, and I'm like, why is it so dead? And then, I lean over, and there's 2 aisles of tables at the Artist Alley, and then there's huge wall. You can't even see the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no one knows we're here.
I did Lexington Comic Con earlier this year, and it was kind of the same situation. They put all the vendors behind all the celebrity guests. You know, the celebrity
Oh,
guests,
wow.
they were inside Rep Arena, and to get to the vendors, you basically had to go into the celebrity area and come around. It was just poorly set up, really.
Gross.
People eventually found us, but it seemed like it was backwards. You know, it would have been nice if they put the vendors up front and you had to walk through them to get to the celebrities.
For sure, and that's why I think some stuff like this, like the reason we do our videos the way we do, is super important because, you know, whether it's like the scope and size of a show like C2E2, which I think we still missed stuff this year. Like we went pretty strategically, heavily to like hit every aisle, and I'm pretty sure we still missed stuff. And like we're there to experience as much as physically possible. So at the same time, like to have missed a lot of stuff still, the people who are just there casually just to experience the whole thing, how much are they missing? So that's why I like showing off stuff that maybe people might not stop next to. Maybe people, you know, like I like talking to people who are passionate about their book, passionate about what they're presenting to people, and be like, hey, like that's why I like Insane Comics. It's local, it's smaller, but it's still so much material. In one booth, so like anyone can walk into that booth and find something they like.
Exactly. That's what we told so many people who came in the book. We don't have a book for you. You are just too damn picky. You know?
Right. Exactly.
They cross every genre. They really do. I mean, you got, like I said from the beginning, superheroes. They got dark stuff. They got twisted metal stuff. I mean, anything you're looking for, it's there.
Yeah, across the board. And that's you know, that's the same reason I started doing the show. Like I joined the caffeine broadcasting community a few months ago, and one of the other broadcasters was talking about like, hey, you should do talk shows. And I just kind of that night decided I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do a comic book talk show, which is what I do Wednesdays, and I do one on Thursdays about doing your passion as a business, following your passion as a business as a living. So I think having that other market, you know, like you said, that you have those shows where there are these incredible obstacles placed for you to get in front of someone who is trying to get you to buy their book. And by then, you might have already spent your money because Artist Alley is never at the front of a show.
Yep.
And then even to go to your LCS, to go to your local comic shop, there are all these obstacles, all these barriers of entry. So I think the internet is the only arbitrage at this point. Like I think having, you know, digital, I think is a great way to go. We're actually working on a website that's kind of like a free taste kind of website. Like try it. Here are the links. Like here is the first chapter. Here are the links. Buy it.
That's something. You know, I write books also, and that's something I always find that, hey, if you give away 5 or 6 chapters of your book for free, you know, you do make a sale eventually because they read those chapters and they get hooked, you know.
Oh, for sure.
If you're a good enough writer and they're into
exactly,
it, you know,
exactly. If it's
they're
good,
gonna read the rest of the book. They got to have it, you know.
And that's why I like the concept of webcomics, and I kind of wanted to reverse engineer that. So we started a website called the Catalyst.digital, and essentially the concept in reality is like the monetarily it's a way to like remonetize old stuff. So let's say you were on volume 3 of Freedom Fighter, you could, you know, if you wanted to, you could put page by page, let's say on a monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever, the first volume. Here's a free page, here's a free page, here's a free page. Always with links like, hey, if you like this, here's the link, buy the whole volume. Here's the link, here's the newest volume, etc.
That's a cool idea.
So, and I just like that idea and it's not meant to be like, hey, this is how you make money off your work. It's really meant to be like, this is how you sell your stuff.
It's a promotional tool.
Exactly. You know, and because we needed a place to put our book once we were ready for it. And I was just like, why do I have a whole website for one thing? Like, I just don't understand that. I don't understand the purpose of a website for just one comic book. I'm like, I'm gonna have this. I have the bandwidth. I have the space. I'm like, I don't need other people's money. It's I don't know if you know what Steam is. It's a gaming platform. It's like where you buy. It's where you buy games, and that's essentially like a game marketplace. And the concept for me originally was a Steam for comics, where you would go there, and it's like, you check out the first chapter of Acts of Contrition, and it's going to be like, hey, if you dig this, if you dig the writing of this, here's Freedom Fighter, check out this one. And at the same time, like if somebody's like, oh, I dig this black and white kind of style, like our book is going to be black and white. Hey, if you dig the style, check out this book, and then it'll point to us. So like us, our stuff, our book, that makes us money. So like any advertising would be going to us. Any advertising from, Acts of Contrition would go to you. Mm-hmm. Like, 'cause I don't care. Yeah. Like, if someone comes and watches, reads my book, they might dig yours. Like, it's just, to me, it's just cross promotion. Like, I just think that if you, like, I never watch a movie and say, all right, that's the end of that. If I talk to somebody about a movie, if I'm like, oh, you loved Memento, like you really dug Memento, Dark City. Dark City's what you got to check out. It's like, it's trippy. It's a mind mess up. Because that's natural. That's natural to compare it to things. To say, oh, like you dig this, you think this is a really cool style of something, this is another thing you should check out. I think people talk about TV shows that way. I think people talk about everything that way. Like, oh, you like this movie, you like this TV show, you like this book, here's all this other stuff.
It'll work across all formats of entertainment, really.
Exactly. So that's why I kind of wanted to do that and be like, if you give away your first issue, page by page over weeks, at the absolute very least, somebody reads it and is like, oh, this is dope. Oh, there's a whole volume? Yeah. Done. There's a whole volume. There's 6 issues and they're $2? Sold. So that's why I like the concept of digital. There's a lot of stuff that I can only read it as digital. There's so much of it. Yeah. I'm actually finishing up New 52 right now.
Oh, really?
The totality of New 52. So it was one of those things like I could buy 45 trade paperbacks, which is a daunting number, or I could go digital and like certain stuff I did buy, certain stuff I'm still going to buy because like some of the chunks of New 52 are just really, really well done. Other stuff is really bad. So I'm actually going to do a whole podcast about that just because I think there's a whole lot to unravel there as far as like how they did that whole project. But that'll be another podcast to get back around to it. This has been about Acts of Contrition, which, again, I cannot say in any other words, in any better words than this is a fantastically written, excellently portrayed story that I think if you're into noir, if you're into drama, if you're into supernatural angels, if you are into... What's the show? The show Supernatural. I think if you are into the show Supernatural, I think this is going to be right up your alley. Because I know a lot of people are big fans of that. I'll be honest, I've never seen an episode.
I've never seen an episode either. I was about to say the same thing.
Well, my cousin has.
I take your word for it.
My cousin has. I think I may have seen part. I know I've seen part of one episode. I don't remember if I saw the whole episode. But it's very much like normal everyday life. Also demons, also angels, also, all this other supernatural stuff. So
I've had more than one person tell me that I should watch this show because I know, kind of like your concept, it's if you're into that, you're going to love this.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's just on my watch list type of thing, and one day I'll have everything watched. Because they don't come up with anything new.
Right. If they stopped everything right now, 10, 15 years, I could have watched everything that I've been told to watch.
Yeah. And we're sitting here waiting for these new shows to come out, and there's so many things I could be watching instead,
Right. And at the end, and on the flip side of that is you're still writing, you're still creating.
Yeah.
So like there's a whole other side of life that you need to attend to, and you'd still like to watch all this stuff. I'm blessed in that I work from home. I do nonverbal tech support, so I type to people.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm watching shows in the background. I'm actually, like I said, I was catching up with Lucifer, and I think I'm rewatching the last 4 episodes because I had seen them, but I couldn't remember them.
You got an unfair advantage then whenever it comes to catching up on shows.
In theory, yeah, but like I said, I watched the last 4, but I don't remember what happened, so I had to I caught a moment, but I don't know, because I'll start the next one. It'll be like previously, and it shows all this stuff that I don't remember, and I'm like, son of a monkey, now I gotta go back and do the whole thing. I saw that part. All right, I can start from here. Yeah. And it's a blessing for sure. I do have an advantage. I'm not gonna lie there, but It's still a lot. It's still a lot because I'm into Lucifer is a big one. The new season of Legion's coming out, which Legion is just incredible.
Is that? I need to get caught up on that show. I was watching that whenever it was on FX.
Did you watch? How much of it have you seen?
Oh, I think I've seen 4 episodes of it before I just couldn't keep up with the schedule, and then I think it's on Hulu or is it on Netflix? It's on one of those things. I need to catch up on that one.
It's fantastic. It's one of those things that I know the first 4 episodes, I genuinely couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Mind trippy.
Exactly. I wasn't sure what was going on. I wasn't sure if he was imagining stuff. There was a scene where he was walking with her, and because they can't touch, they were holding like a piece of fabric between each other. And I'm walking, and everyone's kind of giving him weird looks, and I'm like, is he imagining her? And then that's why they're giving him weird looks, because he's just walking around with this piece of cloth. And it's so deep. And then like the trail, right? Exactly. Like they're just looking at him like, freaking weirdo. Like I need a better job. But like you get to a point, because I saw the trailers ahead of time, and people were making these assumptions, and like, oh, this, I don't know if you know much about the X-Men universe as far as the comics. One of the trailers shows a character and they were like, oh, it's Mojo. Mojo's in the book. So the whole time while you're watching the show, I'm trying to figure out, how the hell does Mojo fit into this? Because if you ever seen Mojo, he's like a game show host. Yeah. So like it really, like, just that personality didn't fit into this story. And when they reveal who
talking about on the show too, because the last episode I watched of it that I remember he made like a just sudden appearance.
Yeah.
Here or in his dream or something.
Exactly.
Oh, can't wait till next episode, and I never got back.
But when they reveal the name, I lost my shit, because it made so much perfect sense. It made perfect sense. But like it never came to mind. And as soon as they said the name, I was like, son of a bitch! Like, it's like, yes, of course it's him. Of course it's him.
Oh, I got to get back into that show now.
It's so good. And then there's a new season of that coming out. They're like, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not even just tied into the comic book stuff. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie 12 Monkeys. The show was actually pretty good. So like, I saw the first 2 seasons, I think, or the first season, and there's another season already out. Like, there's just all this show out, and there's no time.
It's been forever since I've seen that movie. I mean, I think whenever the last time I saw it, I was probably too young to be watching something like that when it first come out. But say it was Bruce Willis and
it was Bruce Willis.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's the
something about time travel, I guess, wasn't it?
Yes, it was time travel. I genuinely, I mean, it's been so long since I watched the show that I don't even remember the premise of the show, honestly. I just remember enjoying it, and like, there was a twist ending, and I was like, son of a bitch, and I need to watch the next one. And then it was like, because I'm a completionist, I had shotgunned the whole first season, and then for whatever reason, they had like a really long gap before the second season, like a year and a half kind of thing. Like not even just like a season, but like a year and a half. And then I was into other stuff, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So when it came out, I was like, oh, I gotta remember to get on that. But then it was like episode 3, and I was like, I'm gonna watch the first 3 episodes, and then I'm gonna be pissed off because I can't watch the next one. Yeah. So like that's the position I end up being in. Like I watched the first half of all the comic book shows after they went to Christmas break. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna shotgun all these. I also watch NCIS, so that's 3 more shows to watch. And like I did watch Discovery, though. I did watch the entirety of Discovery because I thought that was super important, just as far as to show the impact live, kind of like as it comes out. And it was really well done, like really, really incredibly well done. If you're into Star Trek at all,
I do like Star Trek.
I think it's worth the subscription fee.
Okay. I had to check it out. I just, the TV shows of Star Trek, I never really got into them that much. It was like, I'll watch it if it's on, I like Deep Space Nine a lot whenever it was out.
Deep Space Nine was outstanding.
Yeah, it was a great show. That was probably my favorite. I know a lot of people like Next Generation, but
Deep Space Nine is definitely my second favorite. I still love Voyager. I am in love with the concept of taking like something that's established taking it 100% out of its comfort zone, and then just letting the shit fly. Because it was like, here is this ship that's really meant to function as like an extension of this large governing body, and then you just take off the body, and there's just this hand floating there, essentially. Like, what's the hand do?
Yeah.
So you ended up, just like some really, really interesting stories. Yeah, same thing. I feel like they did the same thing with, although in a lot of situations that ends up being really weird. Andromeda was another one that did that. It was like, it started, the first like half hour or whatever was in the past, where there was the Commonwealth, and same kind of thing. It was, you had your Federation and all that, but then got stuck in a time loop, woke up 300 years later or something, and then there was none of that. All of it was gone. It's like, now you deal with that. Here you are, Kevin Sorbo, with your lack of any form of organization. It was kind of a whole thing where they tried to rebuild the Commonwealth, and I thought it was a really, really interesting storyline. But then, like, season 5, and I noticed this with a couple different series, season 5, shit just takes a side turn that no one can explain. On Andromeda, they fell into some, like, nebula or something where, like, they couldn't communicate outside of it. So then it got weird, and, like, there was just, like, bad humor. Like, I don't know, the writing got different. The characters got strange. Same thing happened on Enterprise. Enterprise fell into some sort of spatial gap where they couldn't talk to Starfleet, and everything got strange during that time frame. Like, I think they killed somebody. Like, as part, like, they were like, well, we got to kill this dude, otherwise he's gonna come back after us. And I'm like, you're Federation, you don't kill. Like,
wow.
So yeah, like, I don't know. I've seen it with a couple different series, usually sci-fi. They, like, fifth, sixth season, they just take a weird left turn. And either
running out of ideas.
Yeah, it was like, it's we're losing steam. Throw the new guy on it. Let him have a crack at it. And then you just end up with really interesting, strange stories. Like on Andromeda, there was a beautiful moment where they're having a conversation. He turns around, he opens a panel. He was looking for something, for a gun or whatever, and he pulls out this blonde wig and a barbarian sword. And he's like, "That's a long story." And I was like, "A Hercules reference?
What?
What the hell is going on right now?"
Yeah, I used to watch the heck out of that show too. Hercules.
I loved that series.
Xena Princess Warrior.
I love Xena Warrior Princess. I thought that was really interesting and kind of ahead of its time, because I've seen a lot of kind of fantasy stories that take place around kind of the end of the pagan religions and the beginning of the Christianity, kind of take the same tone of like God is like taking over, kind of like here's the next stage of where things are going to be. So that whole thing where like she had like the Antichrist baby, which was like super weird. That was another one that was kind of like, it got weird at the end. It was like, why does she have an Antichrist baby? What the hell's going on? Like,
that show was a lot of fun. I can't remember so many of the storylines, but it was just one of those things that come home from school and it was on TV. That's
for sure, exactly. Because there was so much, because there were so many people, and again we talked about barrier of entry. There were so many people in the way of producing a show that you only had 10 shows. So you had the 3 that you liked. You watched the 3 that you liked. That was it.
Yep.
Nowadays there's 300, and you might like 20. That's a day. That's a day a week that you got to dedicate to watching TV, and that's insane. Just conceptually, that is nuts.
It is.
Like, I just.
Did you ever watch Lost in Space, the old TV show? We watched this new series.
No, but I wanted to see the new one. I did want to see the new one.
You haven't seen it yet? It's so. It's not
really. I had my cousin said that it was outstanding.
I feel like there was just the Dr. Smith character, in the old series.
Sure.
Obviously, he's kind of like a bad guy or whatever. He's played by a woman this time, which is cool. It was a little bit of a twist, but her character just fell flat for me. It really did, and it didn't feel like what I wanted to see. Maybe that's what it was. I wanted to see the old story and stuff, and there were a lot of other plot lines that I felt like they left hanging too. So, but I think they intended on making a second season, but maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't. Man, I thought it had just come out recently. I didn't realize it was done already.
Yeah, it did just come out. I mean, it's a Netflix series, so.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was a Netflix. For some reason, I thought it was somewhere else.
Or
but
was it Prime? It's one of those streaming services.
Right. I mean, there's another one where it's like there's 30 of those. Like,
Yeah.
which ones do you subscribe to? And it doesn't help. It doesn't help that people make deals across the board. You know, you have Netflix, you have the Marvel Netflix shows. Oh,
Yeah.
Runaways, that's going to be on Hulu. So now I got to buy Hulu at least for a month or whatever until I watch the show. And then Cloak and Dagger is going to be on Freeform, which I get is like a Disney property, but that's still like one other thing I got to watch. I can't just watch it all in one place. And then at the same time, like all the other tie-in shows are on the ABC. Like, there's just so many venues for you to... And the completionist in me doesn't require it at this point because I think the shows have distanced themselves enough from the MCU movies. I do think it's going to be interesting to see how they tie into stuff because from what I understand, and this is like from my own research, the actual Netflix shows still happen like in the past, technically.
Yeah.
Like, they're still happening in, like, 2015, 2016. So, like...
That's my understanding.
So, like, Sokovia hasn't happened yet. Like, none of these big events have happened. Like...
Yeah. It's, like, right after the first Avengers movie, right?
Yeah. So, like, at least those two have happened. Three, rather. Four.
Yeah.
Jeez, that was 4 movies up to that. So, through the Avengers movie... And then, I don't know if it's the next year or whatever, but let's say that was 2012. I think these shows happen because there's no mention of any of the other events, the other major events. Because at least on the ABC shows, they are on Agents, like, they mention it. Like, they mentioned the second Thor movie. They mentioned Sokovia Accords. The Hydra thing happened, which I thought was outstanding.
Yeah, that shook up the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, I understand.
It was really well done and like created some really, really interesting storylines to work off of, and like some darker stuff came out of that as well. Like it was very, very interesting. And there was a lot of people who were like, oh, there's not enough like superpowers and blah blah blah. But to me, like being a comic book fan, it's about the world building for me. Just as much as like if you told me, if you shot me an email and said, hey, I'm going to have a one shot of, just a quick 20-page story of Daryl and like his prime days where he wasn't dying of cancer. And I'd be like, yo, I'm into that. Like there wouldn't have to be a single angel in it. There wouldn't have to be anything fantastic. I would just be into reading that story. Because to me, that's just those like little corners of the universe that just kind of fills in the whole picture. Like if you step back, you still see the whole thing, but if you get real close, you see the little details. And that's, to me, that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. always was. It was always like the cleanup crew, and we got to deal with this like not quite big enough threat for Captain America and Tony Stark to show up, but still a big enough threat for us to care. Like
that. Yeah, it was a cool show. I watched it probably for 5 or 6 episodes. I think it was one of those again that you just couldn't keep up with the schedule. So.
And I'll be honest, the first season is not the greatest. The back half of the first season when they deal with the Hydra stuff, and then like that's when it gets really interesting. Season 2, you get like superpowered people. There's way more stuff that it like evolves very, very strongly. But it's, I don't know. I think there is an oversaturation of certain content. I think Inhumans was a little underplayed. I think that could have been Marvel's Game of Thrones because of the royal intrigue. And like you saw little bits of it in the show, but it was and they were trying to sell it like, oh, this is a miniseries, but it very much wasn't done. It very much felt like a season finale. Can't wait to show you season 2. And then they were like, we're not doing a season 2.
I thought that they had intended to do a season 2. And
they pitched it. They pitched it when people started freaking out about, oh, it's already canceled. They said, listen, it was always intended to be a miniseries. It was never going to be a multi-season thing. But then, and everyone took the example of like, well, Agent Carter was also supposed to be just a miniseries, and then that got 2 seasons. Which was another thing that, like,
show.
it was, absolutely. And it was one of those things where they had set up this, like, oh, we're going to show you this pre-S.H.I.E.L.D. era. And I was under the impression that we were going to see it up until the building of S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, we didn't see that, and they canceled the series. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell? Like, this was an easy show to make. It was 8 episodes. It's super low budget. There's not a ton of, like, crazy graphics. It's mostly just, like, make it look like it's the 40s, 50s. Like, it's not hard to make stuff look like it's the 40s or 50s. I don't know. It just felt like giving up on something that didn't need to be given up on. Whereas, like, the flip side of that, Inhumans, everyone has powers. There's so much CG that needs to be done. So what they did is they toned down the story and they, like, made it less about the powers. And, like, they cut Medusa's hair off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she's bald. She's bald the entire season. So besides, like, the first 2 episodes, I think, she doesn't even use her powers. So it's very much about her kind of being Black Bolt's interpreter, and I mean, admittedly a badass. Like, she still can fight and stuff. But, like, they took, and, like, Karnak, because he's very much a permanent visual effect, he died in the first episode. Oh, not Karnak. Triton. Okay. The water guy, because he's a permanent special effect. Like, he's either makeup, which on a TV show can be hit or miss, or he's CG, which is expensive. So they killed him off in the first episode. So,
like, the producers found a lot of ways to cut the budget.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, like, when I heard they were going to do a movie, I wasn't excited about the movie because it's very much a long story. There's a lot to tell in the Inhumans story, but at the same time, it felt like it was way under budget. And they made this big deal about how the first 2 episodes were shot in IMAX, and, like, they came out as an IMAX movie for the first 2 episodes as a premiere, and, like, I was completely underwhelmed, especially for, like, it supposedly having been filmed in IMAX. Like, I thought it was incredibly low budget looking for something that was filmed in IMAX. There was do you remember? I mean, I'm sure you remember the Knight Rider series.
Yeah.
Did you watch the, like, mid 2000s?
The Hop version or the new version that kind of flopped?
Well, the new version flopped, but here's what they did that was brilliant. They made a movie. They made a TV movie as the pilot. So it wasn't like, here's a 45-minute episode as a pilot. This was a 2-hour film, and they went all out. They got a full budget. If you watch the pilot movie of the new series, the transformation is, like, I think even by today's standards, the transformation is brilliant because the car transforms. The Mustang transforms into other Ford vehicles, conveniently enough, other Ford vehicles. But it was like it was like this nanotechnology. It was, like, beautiful. They just, like, did this super slow pan as it happened. Visually stunning. So, like, you got hyped. You got super, super hyped for it. So then when the show came on and it was, like, kind of Generation 1 Transformers style transformations where, like, panels pop out and shift and stuff, I was like, I mean, I'm already in. Let's watch. Like, okay. So I watched the whole season, but, like, they got fancier. Like, it turned into, like, a truck. It turned into, like, police cruiser. The entire Ford lineup, basically. So you could buy a Ford, but right. But and it was one of those things where it was the story itself is what drew me forward. But I will say that they also had Val Kilmer as the voice, which I thought was brilliant. But you could do that. You could have a first introductory, like, brilliant piece, and then, like, tone it down in episodes 2 on. Like, it's not. Welcome, Hot Croissants, to the broadcast. Speaking with Michael Heitkemper, the creator of Acts of Contrition and Freedom Fighter from Insane Comics. We've gotten off tangents because this is, of course, the Tangents podcast. We're talking about TV shows now. But yeah, no.
On your broadcast voice again.
Yeah, I gotta introduce.
Yeah.
I think they dropped the ball with Inhumans. It could have been this like really cool first, if you want to call it the first 2 episodes are filmed in IMAX, get like a ridiculous name to film the first 2 episodes. Pay Kevin Smith just whatever he wants to film it. And then give somebody else the reins for episodes 3 and on, like give somebody who knows the material to just show out. If you want to make a big deal about it and bring people to see it, because that's the thing. I mean, it's like it's not really a big secret. The Inhumans are related to the Kree.
Yeah.
At the end, it sets up pretty much an invasion by the Kree. So you're kind of like, how is this a miniseries? Like, where is this going? The only place I can see it going is the Captain Marvel movie. Because, again, very much rooted in the Kree.
I wonder where that ties into in the movies.
But the flip side of that is if this is happening in the modern day, Captain Marvel happens in the 90s.
Yeah, that's what I just read actually today.
So, which I thought was a cop-out, because they were like, we're not doing really origin stories anymore. But then it's like, but this one happens in the past, so it's okay. It's okay that it's an origin story. Because, like, she's almost certainly... I mean, if she's not in Avengers 4, I don't even know what the hell that post-credit scene was about.
I don't either.
But, like... So,
I'm sure she will be.
Right, so she'll be in that, so they have to explain her, which means that her movie had to take place in the past.
Yeah.
But then it's like... that movie needs to end really strongly for me to believe that she's just been absent for, like, Sokovia, the invasion of New York, all these big events that kind of needed her help. Like, if she had just shown up and like, yo, clutch, that was clutch, appreciate it, Captain Marvel. like
she's on a different planet or something, but Nick Fury, he can still call her with a cell phone,
Right, I'm saying, like, she's got to be off planet, and that button, like, that was too fancy of a pager for it to be anything else besides intergalactic.
Right.
Which is fine if it's like, hey, I'm glad we got our stuff straightened away. We're cool, Nick Fury, but the powers that be say I got to go and patrol space because I'm a space cop. Peace. Flies. I'm fine with that. That's fine. But it's like, I feel like he would have called her at least for Sokovia. Hey, there's a robot trying to take over the entire planet. You want to just you got a few minutes for us?
It's going to end with her and Nick Fury not getting along on some level,
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I hadn't considered that. I hadn't considered that they had a falling out, and she was like a last ditch, like, I'm gonna call her if I can't call anyone else.
Yeah. Yep. Similar to the Tony and Steve Rogers type of thing, after Civil War. He's like, got the cell phone just in case they need each other.
Also, I thought it was interesting that in Infinity War that they were like, oh, Avengers are done. We're not around. We're not a thing anymore. And I was like, wait, so because Cap wasn't going to do it, you didn't. You were like, nah, I'm not going to do it. It was like solidarity. Like, he didn't want to sign, but like, I won't do it without him. So like, you guys still don't have a superhero team.
Yeah. Well, kind of plays with his character too, because he even though he's really ambitious, he's lazy whenever it comes to working on a team. Tony does.
It's true. It is true. It's very much about Tony. That's why I like the scene at the beginning where Pepper's like, if you loved me, you wouldn't have done this, and she taps on his chest. No, it's not like an arc reactor. This just stores nanotech. That's all this is. And she's like that's not the, like, you saw it in her eyes. Like, that's not the point, jackass. Like, yeah. The point is, you said you were done. You said you were quitting. Here you are not quitting.
It was a short scene, but it was a good scene.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and it was just like, we're on to the next thing, but it was very deep as far as like the characters go. I thought it was, really, really well done. Hakrasant is a broadcaster on Caffeine. She has joined us here, and I want to kind of bring her in. Besides the movie talk, the book that we're talking about is Acts of Contrition. I appreciate it. It is mafia, gangland kind of life meets angels, the supernatural. It follows this dying fellow that's on screen right now, Daryl, and he's a mob enforcer who is then petitioned by an angel to find out who killed one of his charges. I think that's about as concise a pitch. What do you think, Michael?
I think that was perfect.
I'm working on my pitches. I was told that my pitch for my book sucks, so I'm working on my pitches.
I think you really just sold it right there. The only thing else you can add is that the angel is kind of off the hook a little bit. He's a little unhinged.
He is very unhinged, and it's one of those things that every moment with him on screen very much calls to like know more of his story, which Michael has informed me. Who doesn't love an unhinged angel? Exactly. Who doesn't love an unhinged angel? I think, which I think, to go to back what we were talking about before, the show Lucifer, that's essentially what that entire series is about, an unhinged angel. Like an angel with daddy issues. So the entire story, every scene with the angel, Stephen, brings up this, like, what is this guy about kind of desire. Like, you want to know what he's about. And Michael's informed me that in the next book, which should be coming out soon-ish, that's going to be explored a little more as far as who he is.
Yeah, there's no estimated date yet, but we will be working on it.
Yeah, I just love the idea that our lead character has an expiration date. Like, hey, here's this guy, he's dying of cancer, he's in final stages, and go. Like,
yeah. Yep, and he's got a lot of ground to cover.
Right.
Do it while he's covering this ground. He's got to go through a lot of pain, and it's really rough for him because it turns his life upside down again, even though it was already upside down.
Absolutely. So I've got the links up above for all your stuff, for those for Hakkerson watching now, anyone else watching in the future. If you guys are listening to the Tangents podcast, I appreciate you. Make sure you guys give us a like or a love on whatever platform, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play. And make sure you guys check out Heitkemper, Heitkemper books.com, or is it I think it's insanecomics.com, right?
That's right.
insanecomics.com. You can pick up the book, this book, Freedom Fighter, any of the other 20, 30 titles that Insane Comics has. Those are all available on those platforms. Hakkerson, thank you very much for joining us in these last few moments here. Michael, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I appreciate you very much for joining me to talk about the book. Super excited about it.
Being here, man.
I was super excited to get it. I was super excited to read it. It honestly, it just kind of all timed out perfectly. I just started doing the show, and I'm going through my catalog alphabetically. So this is right at the top. I'm still in the A's, so this worked out perfectly.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the book, man. I really do, and it was great being here. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure by the time, since there's a trade coming out of a Freedom Fighter, by the time we get to F, I'm sure we'll have another conversation.
There you go.
Thank you very much again for hanging out. Thank you those watching in the future. Thank you, Hakkerson, for joining us. Appreciate you very much. We'll see you guys in the next one.